Shalom, assalamu alaikum, hetefu, abaro, aboya, what she said, hayre, whatever language you choose to use, greetings, peace, all of that. Won't be taking too long today. Just wanted to go over something that I think is pretty important. Uh, and the reason why it's important is not just for quote unquote biblical accuracy, but for the sake of an accurate worldview, an accurate philosophy, you know what I'm saying? An accurate understanding of how certain things work. And unfortunately, one of the biggest misconceptions of the Bible in general, which the Hebrew Bible gets lumped into that, is that the physics are off, right? Um, we always want to say that this isn't correct when it comes to biblical cosmology, or even worse, man, we design the cosmology based off of a misunderstanding of the text. And then we come up with things like a quote unquote flat earth, you know, just from not understanding what's going on and looking at other visuals and stuff and misappropriating, just straight up misappropriating what's being communicated. And it all stems from how we look at, honestly, just one word, just a single word in the context of a single verse is the birth of all this misunderstanding. Just to clarify some things, this word right here, Bereshit, this word right here, Bereshit, there's so much controversy within the text because this word is not quite properly understood. The likes of Isaac Newton, the likes of George Lemaitre, who we get our understanding of the Big Bang cosmology. I forget the brother's name, but the person who discovered the cosmic microwave background. It all stemmed from how they understood this one word right here. All right. So to not elongate matters, we will begin. Okay. And today we're going to talk about day one. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about day one because that takes up a lot of confusion. And there's a lot of things that are not considered um, in the reading because, well, people just simply don't know. All right. So starting off, we have our inseparable preposition bait. Okay. This could mean in, on, at, with, via, or through. Okay. Then we have reshit. Okay. Reshit. Resh comes from you can call it an obsoleted noun in biblical Hebrew, but resh comes from the verb to be at the top, to be preeminent, to be first. You know what I'm saying? It has a synonym in the root word for Elohim, but we'll talk about that in a second. But it means to be at the apex. All right. And then we have the Hidik Yot Thou. We have the Hidik Yot Thou, diminutive suffix, and this is a concentration. This is I call it a particle of distillation because what the diminutive does is render down the object that it is affixed to its smallest indivisible part, right? So if you look at Shimshon, for example, you have the root Shemesh, Shalom, Marisha. If you look at Shimshon, for example, you have the root Shemesh, you know what I'm saying, from an unused verbal root Shamash, meaning to shine, to be brilliant, to radiate. But then you have the masculine diminutive suffix, Holim Wal Nun, Nun Sofit, which basically means the sun, the actual radiative portion of the sun, and not necessarily the plasma encasing it. You know what I mean? Like the core of the sun, if you will. Then you have Anon, meaning the apple of the eye, or things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? But for all intents and purposes, this Hidik Yot Thou, diminishes the value of Rosh to its most indivisible concentrated part, meaning at first, right? But altogether, Reshit is an ordinal number, meaning first. Reshit, first. Shenit, second. Shelishit, third. You know what I'm saying? Arbeit, fourth. Chameshit, fifth. Sheshit, sixth. Shaviyit, seventh. So on and so forth, right? So at first, now the difference between how it is written and how it is typically translated. The difference between how it is written and how it is typically translated. One second, and people. All right. Is that they say in the beginning, but that's not so. All right. So we're gonna flip over to my other Tanakh here, and we're gonna take a look at Genesis 13. Oh, yeah, 13 and 4, right? So we have the word Betehila. Betehila is rooted from the word Hilel or Halal. I'm sorry, Halal, meaning to begin, to profane, to make common. You see what I'm saying? So if we were going to say in the beginning, we would say Betehila, Bara Elohim, Det Hashemayim Wayet Ha'arid. Or if we wanted to just say like at the beginning, as in at the beginning of time, like a placement in the beginning of time. You know what I'm saying? Betahila. We would say Betahila from Halal. Betahila. In this inseparable preposition. This is the second masculine singular or third feminine singular. In this case, I believe it's the third feminine singular. The performative tau with Hela. We have the Dagesh gemination here to indicate that this is a geminate noun. There is a doubling of this lamed, and then there's the feminine suffix. So this is a third feminine singular in the imperfect. Batehila in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Or it's a noun, but in the beginning. All right, but then we go even a little bit further, and then we see Barashona, right here, Barashona. We have in the Rashona, same verbal root as Reshit, you know what I'm saying? But we have Reshon, that is a masculine diminutive suffix. This holam wow, this holam nun is a diminutive suffix. Meanwhile, this omed hey is a feminine suffix. Let me see if we get some clarity here. All right. So literally in the beginning, in the temporal aspect, you know what I'm saying? So we have a physical in the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Like as it is a place of time. And then we have the temporal, Bereshona. And then we go back to Bereshit. So one way that we know that this cannot be in the beginning is right here in the inseparable preposition. Both in Betehillah and Barashona, you have the indication of the definite article with the A class vowel and the Dagesh Havak within the first root radical of the next word. And then Barashona, the Reish rejects the Dagesh Hazak and sends that stress back to the A class vowel, elongating it, we call it compensatory lengthening. But it's still indicating that there is the definite article here. Otherwise, it would just be a schwa, a vocal schwa, like so. So this is not in the, this is just simply in, at, on, through, right? So being that this is first, being that this word reshit means first, the only preposition possible out of the semantic range of the inseparable preposition bait that we can apply here is at. So at first, this is not in the beginning. This is not to say that God stood outside of time and space. This is not to say that God is unobservable, incorporeal. No. It just says the first action observed. You can't say something invisible did anything first because you could not observe it. Things that are incorporeal have no impact on physical reality. They're purely imaginative. You cannot say what an invisible, unobservable thing did first. So you would have to say, well, in the beginning, this thing that I can't understand did all of this. No. The very first action that it did was blank, which we will discuss in a second. All right. So at first, Bara, remember Hebrew, biblical Hebrew is verb, subject, object. This is a temporal marker. You know what I'm saying? This is a place marker, if you will. This is a temporal clause with a pause here where the accent is, and then we have our verb, our subject, and our objects within the first verse. All right. So this verb, bara, typically it means created. It means created. But unfortunately, because Bereshit is oftentimes considered to be in the beginning, bara, creation, often takes the connotation of being from ex nihilo or coming from nothing. The concept of creation from nothing is physically impossible. Physically impossible. You cannot create something from nothing. Right. So I did some digging. And the only, like, I looked in Jacinius, I looked in David Klein's Biblical Hebrew Dictionary, his 8 volumes. I looked in the Hebrew Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, and they are replete with Arabic cognates, bara, meaning to expand, to fatten, literally to create or to build, right? But more importantly, there's also the Ethiopic, the Ge'ez, and the Ge'ez version is bara, which means to light, to be free, to clear away, to illuminate, right? So at first, not only did it create, but it created in the sense of construction, in the sense of sculpting, but it also illuminated and cleared away. So this one word denotes a object that is luminant, that expresses luminance, meaning that it sheds light, has the capacity to clear obstacles. We'll talk about that when we get to here. Yeah, he or and we also have something that overlooks. Barra also means barir means to overlook. Bari means to inspect. You know what I'm saying? All of these are rooted from barra, you know. So, or bara, I should say. So we have an object that is luminant, that overlooks, that inspects, that has the potential of clearing things away. I don't know how good y'all are at physics, but the only object in the universe that can possibly give off light naturally is a star. Period. Stars flare. They burst all the time. And when they flare and create these nebulous clouds, they clear out a lot of junk. They overlook every satellite that they deal with. All right. So it doesn't, it's not only that the deity created, but the deity illuminated as well. It cleared away obstacles from being able to view this object and this object. Okay. So to further the idea that at first it illuminated or it cleared a path or whatever, it sculpted Elohim, right? The root word for Elohim, ul, ilif, wow, lamed, ul. It means to initiate. It means to be the first. It means to be strong. It means to exhibit strength. But more importantly, it means to initiate, or it means to be preeminent. All right. Eloah is a derivative of Ayil, which means ram. Ram, like literal ram, as in the animal, but also the action to ram something into something, to charge. Eloah, Elu, Elohim, they all render down to charges, things that charge. Electricity, objects pertaining to electricity. So you have at first, it illuminated, it cleared, made clear, charges, forces, energy, if you will, at this object and this object. We're dealing with a star here. And the first action that this particular star did, these charges that illuminate, the first action that they did was to either clear away, construct, or illuminate. Shalom, 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 lewi. To illuminate barha, the ge'ez, barha, or barha, to construct. But both of them, I'm telling you, they render down to the same thing. I wrote this stuff down. I don't know if you can understand my chicken scratch, but we have, right? Bara being to create, build, birth, to expand, to become free of obstacles, to sculpt or to clear. Baruch, the Akkadian version, if I could get my focus right, I'll just read it. To see, look at, inspect, oversee, read, check through, to make or perform a divination. All right, it means to be seen or checked. Then you have Barir, which means radiance, glitter. Then you have Barhu, meaning shining. You know what I mean? Between or among. Barri, meaning between or among. Barhu has a cognate in Bahir, meaning to examine, to choose, to test. Okay. An elite soldier or to join together or gather. Then you have Barara, the Ege'ez version, to pierce, to penetrate, to go through. The exact same thing as, where is it? Between or among. Okay. Then you have Egyptian Bari, meaning to issue or to charge. And when we look at how the heavens are created very briefly, we'll understand exactly what happened, why such issue, charge, piercing, penetration, or to check, to come through is attached to the verb barara. And then we have bara. Bara, this phoneme here is about equivalent to the elif in its usage, but it's a distinct phoneme in itself, but it can be interchanged with the elif. So you have bara, to be bright, to be light, to light up, to be clear, illuminate. This is from Leslie Wolf. This is from the Akkadian, Concise Akkadian Dictionary. I forget their last names, but it's page 39. So all together, you have an object that is glittering or radiant that either constructs, expands, or clears away. Like I said, that's a star. I don't know if you've ever seen a star flare or anything like that, but I would definitely investigate that. All right, now of interest is the next word, Hashemayim. Now we take that to be the totality of the cosmos. Hashemayim. We take that to be the totality of the cosmos. But breaking this word down, we see that can't be the case. We have our definite article, ha, indicated by the Dagesh Shadak and the A-class vowel. Then we have shemeh. Shemeh. This is the root. Shemeh. Yim, or ayim, I should say. Ayim is a suffix. Fateh, yod, hirik, mem. Sufit. That's a suffix. All right. Shemeh means a height, a canopy. You have an absolute value of 2 with ayim. Fateh, yod, hirik, mem. Ayim, absolutely 2 heights. Go outside at any point of the day. Night, daytime, it doesn't matter. You're only seeing one expanse. You're seeing one height from where you're standing all the way to the very tip of the cosmos to the very last thing that you can see up there. That's only one, right? Unless you count the atmosphere where the clouds are and then where the stars themselves are. That could be 2 heights too. But this is not the entirety of the cosmos because there's not a dual distinction between them. There's not one height that's, so for example, if you're looking at the sky and it's a clear day, if the moon's not out, you don't know what the distinction between the heavens and the earth is unless you're looking at trees and things of that nature, right? But in terms of just like the positioning of the cosmos, there's layers and layers and layers up there. There's 5 layers in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? There's 5 layers in the atmosphere, at least. There's layers in each interplanetary, field. Each of them have different densities and different electromagnetic frequencies and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? So where do you get the idea where there's 2 layers? Well, luckily for us, exactly what the Shemayim is described here in the very next portion. And it doesn't say anything about the entirety of the cosmos. It talks about an expanse between waters. Shemayim is an expanse between waters. Where are the waters on this planet? Or what waters are we talking about? We'll figure that out in a second. But for all intents and purposes, this object represents 2 heights. And the Shemayim is in between those 2 heights. Or rather, the Shemayim is those 2 heights. The Shemayim is the 2 heights. And then the Ered is I wrote that all wrong, but but the Ered is the domain that the two heights encapsulate. All right, so Shemad means two heights, two canopies. Arid means land, domain. We take it to mean terrestrial Earth, like the entire planet, but that is impossible. Nobody was here to see the planet, so how would they know? You know what I mean? The process in which it was completed. They were standing on the planet, but they were looking up. Both Shemayim and Ha'arid in this instance are in the sky. And I'll give some visuals in a second if y'all can deal with my handwriting. All right, so all in all, this very first verse, at first, the deity illuminated, cleared away, expanded even, two heights and the domain. Mind you, the word Arith in Akkadian also renders down to underworld. And that doesn't necessarily mean the grave, but let's use our brains for a second. If we're on the ground and the ground is where the dead are buried, if we're the recipients of everything that comes from the sky, whether it's rain, hail, sleet, snow, lightning, you know what I'm saying, cosmic radiation, UV radiation, or maybe even sometimes straight up meteors, asteroids, right? We're the recipients. It penetrates the height at the top of the atmosphere and the height at the bottom of the troposphere. You see what I'm saying? It goes through the thermosphere, the mesosphere, and then it reaches us. We, right here, where we're standing, we're in the underworld. This has more to do with the troposphere. I mean, the entire celestial landscape, while this has to do with the troposphere and above, everything between the troposphere and the exosphere. And then this here is the celestial landscape in total. So at first, the deity illuminated the two heights and the entirety of the landscape. It was the only thing there. The only thing in the sky when this first verse was transmitted, or rather in the setting that we have here, the only thing that was in the sky was Elohim, these charges, these forces, these luminary forces. It was the only luminary we knew, we understood. Now, the interesting thing about Elohim, is that it's rooted from a word that means to charge or to initiate force, right? But its nominal derivation means ram. But all in all, it means a god, a power. If only there was a ram god that was somewhere along the Nile Valley where these people originated. You know what? Khnum, Amun, literal ram gods. And I wish I had it printed out. I don't. But if you were to ever take a look at ionic shock from plasma discharges when they reach the ionosphere of the Earth, the very first form that these discharges take is in the form of a head of a ram. Peratt 2003, the very first form that plasma from the sun or any other stellar body, should it ever reach this far, the first form it takes is in the form of a ram's head. I'll put the picture in the comments later. I might be able to do it now. No, I can't. But yeah, I can't. But it takes on the form of a ram's head. All right, so just bear that in mind. This is detailing a ram god, Amun, Khnum, same thing. And the entirety of creation took place in the sky, although the terrain where we're standing was affected. All right, that's why you get this as above, so below notion. Whatever the above is made of is what the below is made of. Whatever the below is made of is exactly what the above is made of. All right, so we have slight visuals, right? All right, so we'll go into one more thing, a couple more things. I'm gonna finish this and then we'll go to the visuals and we'll discuss it. Well, consecutive while, consecutive conjunction and, definite article, the same phenomenon that I talked about Rashona. This is a guttural letter, so it rejects the dagesh of gemination, and it sends that stress back to the A-class vowel in the definite article, ha'arid. compensatory lengthening, and this vowel takes on the vowel of the prefix. So waha'arid as opposed to waha'arid. All right. Hayata, this is our third feminine singular imperfect of haya. Hayata, this is the feminine infix, performative infix. Tohu meaning waste, void, emptiness. Bohu meaning chaotic or desolate. All right, so empty and desolate, void and waste, however you want to say it. Ambiguous, very ambiguous and opaque. And opacity, rather, and darkness was a choshek, meaning to darken, was upon Paneh, the face, the home of an abyss. This is not the abyss. You don't see hat the home. You don't see hat the home. You do not. You see the performative, and then you see the home. The home is an abyss. All right. Ruach Elohim rechefet al Paneh hamayim. Ruach, meaning breath, wind, spirit. Okay. Elohim, charges, forces, a star. Merachefet, from rahef, meaning to flutter. Merachefet, meaning fluttering. This is a participle. Al B'nai, this is an independent preposition. B'nai, this is the nominal, the face. Or really, you can say before or on top of, but on the face of the waters, this is a noun. Hamayim, it's actually a dual noun. For reasons I couldn't tell you, but it is a dual noun. Ayim, you know what I'm saying? Mem is the word, you know what I mean? Mem, mem, segol, mem, sofit. But yeah, mayim, that's ayim, that's a dual noun. So I'm guessing there's two types of waters being mentioned here. Whether salt, fresh, I can't say. I just know that there's an absolute value of two here. All right, so how do we know that the earth being talked about is in the sky? Because it was empty and waste. It was void. There was nothing there. It was ambiguous. It was amorphous. Not a single human was on the planet when it was amorphous, when it was all lava taking form. Nothing would have survived that. Absolutely nothing, except for like tardigrades that eat metal and produce carbon monoxide or whatever have you. They eat radioactive stuff, so they'd have survived it, but we wouldn't have. We wouldn't have been able to tell you what happened. And Hoshek al Benet home. Okay, so let's use our noggins. Hayata ha'arith tohu abohu. And the domain. He's talking about the celestial domain, the celestial landscape. Again, we weren't around when these things came into being, the cosmos or the planet that we're standing on. So by default, we had to be standing on this planet and looking at the lowest part of our sky and the highest part of our sky and the entire celestial landscape. The entirety of the celestial landscape was void and waste, and darkness was upon the face of an abyss. In order for darkness to be upon the face of an abyss, there has to be something illuminating to contrast it. Otherwise, you cannot tell if there's an invisible thing sitting up there and darkness is everywhere. You can't make distinction between the invisible thing or the unobservable thing and the darkness. You would not be able to say this thing did this in this setting if this thing is incorporeal and invisible. It has to contrast against this, the darkness upon the face of an abyss. In order for this to be able to say it did what it did, it has to be able to contrast against this: emptiness, desolation, and darkness. The only thing on this plane in this universe that can naturally contrast against darkness is a star. Right. So even then, what's making the distinction between the desolation and the waste and the darkness on the face of an abyss? The desolation and the waste is empty space. Think of a cloudless day with the sun shining and it's high noon, but the sun don't move. You can't see anything past that abyss. You know there's stars out there, but you can't see past the blue until the sun leaves. Right? And then even if you do have clouds and things of that nature, what form does a cloud take generally? It's rather amorphous. It's kind of hard to tell. They take forms, of course, yes, but they are often amorphous when you find them. You can't say, oh, it's in the shape of a cloud, because even clouds have different shapes amongst them. You see what I'm saying? So for the earth, the celestial landscape, to be void and empty, that means that this body, Elohim, that illuminated the celestial landscape and the two heights contrasted against that background, and it was empty. It was void of anything except for itself, and there was opacity on the face of an abyss. If you look at the sky, go outside, look at the sky from the horizon all the way up to the midpoint, to the apex, to the perihelion. It will get from lighter to darker. There's a gradient. The sun is responsible for that gradient. In order to say that there was darkness on the face of an abyss, that means the sun had to have been the the gradient. It's the medial, if you will, the medium through which the gradient can be distinguished between this emptiness and this darkness on top of this abyss. God is a star. All right. Now, it's gonna take a little bit more to explain, but it's okay. Ruach does not just mean spirit; it can mean wind. You have solar wind. There is such a thing as solar wind. Solar wind contains every single element known to man because stars contain every single element known to man. And if a wind from this star, that's aurora, solar wind, proton storms, are fluttering over the waters, then that means that let's look at my raggedy deal here. We have figure two from Genesis 2. All right, so we have the Elohim here. This is the star, the little dark spot. This is Ha'arid. The entire celestial landscape is Ha'arid. I put the little squigglies here just to denote the darkness and the opacity. You know what I'm saying? So there was a bunch of amorphous activity, a nebulous cloud around the entity itself, shading it, right? Thus creating the amorphousness and the opacity of the celestial landscape because this thing was being blocked out and dimmed. And then at the very top of that is the most dark spot, which is the abyss, you know what I'm saying, the darkness over the abyss. Now, these waters is where our troposphere would be. Should solar wind come from the sun in a concentrated fashion, it would ripple like auroras. That's the waters. Okay? All right. So, in other words, the sky was empty except for this thing that illuminated it. And then aurora was fluttering upon these celestial waters, the waters that are immediately above our heads. All right. Wa'ya'amer Elohim, while preterite, yod performative, this is a prefix indicating the third masculine in the imperfect, whether it's plural or otherwise. Amer, meaning to speak, to utter, to say. And so thus uttered these charges, there should be light. This is adjussive. This is hayah, but this is not let there be. It's not asking for permission. It's saying there should be. It's dictating. There should be light. And then there was light. So all in all, the deity had created two canopies, one above itself, one beneath itself. That's two heights. And the entirety of the landscape in between these two heights. Okay. If I were to draw a better visualization, it would look something like this. You know, exactly how a star would. You know what I'm saying? When it's about to explode. All right. And then, the Ruach Elohim flirting on the water. This is us. This is the solar wind. This is coming from the sun that has dipoles. You know what I'm saying? This is the bow shot from when it's traveling throughout. And this would be the this would be the nebulous cloud, or these would be the nebulous clouds that would surround each of the hemispheres as well as the metal itself. But from our point of view, it would look like this. I mean, it's a cluster, I know, but but then it says there should be light. So this stellar body sent off electromagnetic energy everywhere, scattering everything. But then it went on to say, let the be gathered the waters and, said, or whatever have you, distinguish between the light and the dark. We often take that to mean like sunlight, as in, saying day and night, saying the two lights, or the alleged two lights made in Genesis 14. One day I'll cover that because that ain't got nothing to do with what it's talking about. But you have, after the star explodes, you have phases. where it goes through a radiator phase and the dimming phase. It pulsates. It oscillates between on and off, on and off. Yom Ehad, or rather Boker, Erev. So it lit first. It exploded first, made distinction between the light and the dark. You know what I'm saying? Itself being the distinction. Because if you look, it says, Vayar Elohim et haor kitov. Vayavdel Elohim. Elohim caused the distinction. Badal means to distinguish. Elohim itself caused the distinction. It didn't create the conditions for the distinction to be made, as in day and night, a day sky and a night sky. No, the object itself was the distinction between darkness and the light, right? So this thing lit up first. Naturally, if something lights up and it expends a lot of energy, it needs to what? Recharge. It needs to turn off. That's exactly what the dimming phase was. That's how he distinguished between day and night, light and dark, evening and morning, the pulsating stage of a newly exploded star. All right. To the day he called Yor, or I mean to the day he called or Yom, to the night he called Layla. And we'll get into more later on. I've already, kind of text, set my time here. I might come back later today. And I'll be real with you. I don't know how often I'll be able to do this, considering certain circumstances that I'm dealing with. But I'll come back when I can to try and explain more things. But to put things in a nutshell, Genesis 1 through 5. At first, the deity illuminated and therefore constructed the entirety of the two heights above us and the entirety of the landscape, giving it dimension. If we go to Job 38:2, he asks, hey, who established, who gave it its dimensions? Who measured its dimensions? How do you measure something? How do you give dimension to something unless you can give depth to it? By this object being here, it gives depth to the sky. You can tell how far other objects are just by the relation to the sun or the star in the sky. All right, so in a nutshell, at first, the deity illuminated the area from the troposphere to the exosphere, as far as our perspective is concerned, and the entirety of the celestial landscape going longitudinally. So he eliminated latitudinally and exposed longitude. And the longitude itself, or the landscape itself, it was waste and void, and darkness was on the face of an abyss. This thing was the only thing in the sky, and we could not get past this radiance because the gradient from that radiance caused portions of the sky to be lighter than others. But all in all, there was complete opacity at the deepest part of it, depths of space. We couldn't see past the sun. All right. And a wind from God, or a solar wind, fluttered on the face of the waters. All right. So this sun was pouring out protons at an alarming rate, creating auroras. And then it exploded. And then our dark sky was no longer dark because the deity itself shed the light. And he looked at that light, saw that it was functional, then distinguished between light and dark. If it exploded and light just stayed, the sun don't go dark. You see what I'm saying? It just leaves. But this thing did not, there's no indication of it moving anywhere or removing itself. It itself made distinction between light and dark, meaning that it was radiating and dimming, pulsating, if you will, alternating between the two values. That's exactly what those two lights are, by the way, two lights in the heavens, but we'll talk about that later. And then it called to the radiative value light. It called to the dimming value darkness. And then it was evening and there was morning. So it dimmed immediately after being exploded. It dimmed and then it began radiating again, starting the next phase, which is why every verse ends with Waihi Erev, Waihi Bakr, because each and every last phase has to do with a different lighting or the effects of the lighting of or the flaring of this celestial body. So it flares, then there's evening, then the morning comes again. Then it flares, and then there's evening, then there's morning again. Then it flares, then there's evening, then there's morning again. Then it flares, then there's evening, and there's morning again. Then it flares, and there's evening, and there's morning. Then it does that 7 times. 7 flares, giving 7 different cosmological and celestial effects from the perspective of the viewer on the ground. This is a star book. This is plasma physics. This is electromagnetism. This is cosmology. This is genetics. This is cellular biology. Every last thing in this cosmos behaves in similar fashion or is affected by the actions of one thing. So our entire creative narrative from 1 to 31 in the first chapter and verse 3 in the second chapter is detailing the effects of micronovae, super flares. All right. And the deeper we get into this, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do it today because, like, I'm be real with you. We're going to be here all day if I do this today. But what we're looking at here is a primary source for how supernovae occur and how they affect the planet, how nebulas are formed. This is a primary source. Don't let nobody tell you it's not. Because you cannot witness the creation of the heavens and the earth. Absolutely not. But you can witness the sculpting or the clearing away or the changing, if you will, the changes. You can, especially if both Hashemayim Wayat Ha'arid in this context are both celestial. And before I move forward, I will say this: we know that Arid in this instance is celestial, simply because we have clear evidence that the waters, excuse me, when we go to the birds and stuff like that, it says let the birds flood the heavens, but then it talks about, or let the life teem in the sea, and then it talks about the birds of the heavens, the celestial waters. You know what I'm saying? Like it. Well, I hate doing that because I'd have to reference it, but we'll get there. But all in all, a star exploded. Darkness became, or opacity and ambiguity became clear, and distinction started being made between the days and the nights. When before there was no distinction between day and night because there was no such thing as night. We were in a perpetual dawn. It was just one star in the sky suspended up there. And nobody took any note of it until at first, the first thing that this still body did that never moved was construct these edifices in the forms of our troposphere, so our exosphere, and the celestial landscape in general, making them visible. All right, that's it. I don't have anything else today. Like I said, I don't know, because of the situation and the circumstances that I'm currently dealing with, I have no idea when I'll be able to do this again. I have no idea. Hopefully I can come back next week. Should things be, at least, how do I put it? Should things be as they are now, for the next week, then I can come back. But if things do change, unfortunately for the worse, then I won't be able to. But I'll see about it. Okay, when I say a star exploded, does it support those that believe in the Big Bang Theory? Yes and no. It supports the idea of a Big Bang in general, but the Big Bang that they talking about, it never happened. It never happened. It's a misappropriation of how they understood this one word, Bereshit. You see what I'm saying? Pure Yiddish, that Edomite Yiddish, that at worst, that Polish Edomite, Ottoman Yiddish. But this word here, Bereshit, this is where we get the misconception. Bereshit and Yehi Or. These are where we get the misconceptions that has something to do with the Big Bang. You missed it, but at first I let you know that Bereshit does not mean in the beginning. This is missing a key component to the actual definite article to say the, right? And then this is an ordinal number. This is Reshit. This is first, like first, second, third, right? So it did not say in the beginning this deity or this entity illuminated or cleared or or sculpted, if you will, these edifices. It's saying that this is the first, these edifices, or the creation or the illumination of these edifices is the first action of this entity. It had been here. It had been here, but it was never observed as doing anything until it illuminated slash constructed these two edifices. Well, technically three edifices. But yeah. So no, the Big Bang never happened the way that they say it did. But if you on Earth, like I'm on Earth, and that solar body up there decides to go poof, that's gonna be a big bang. That's gonna be a big bang. And if that solar body starts spinning faster than what it already is, and it starts going into ultraviolet, there's your black hole. Contrary to popular belief, we don't have a white sun, not even a yellow sun. That thing is red. That thing gives off primarily infrared energy. Only 3 to 5% of the energy that it gives out is in the ultraviolet spectrum. Everything that you see in visible light is only 3 to 5% of what that sun is giving out. That thing is red at the horizon, where the atmosphere is at the weakest. It's at the least active. That thing is red at the horizons. And then it goes to yellow at the top. So what does that tell you? If the order of the electromagnetic spectrum as far as visible light is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, right? Red, orange, yellow. We see a yellow sun. That means that there's something in between that red and that yellow, blocking out all the orange or absorbing all the orange or whatever, absorbing the red and the orange and only allowing the yellow to escape at the top of our atmosphere. At the side of it is red. So, you know what I'm saying? It's not a white sun. It's not a yellow sun. That thing is a red dwarf. It's a red dwarf. By God, it's a red dwarf. Oh, man. But anyway, so should that object in the sky right now go boom and decide to shed more light than what it already does, oh, yeah, we're going to see it as a Big Bang. George Lemaitre, the Catholic priest and clergyman, mathematician, George Lemaitre, is responsible for our ideology of the Big Bang. When in all actuality, no such thing happened. Way in antiquity, no such thing happened. We can say that 10,000 years ago, a sudden flash of light ended the Pleistocene epoch, ended the Ice Age with the, the saber-tooth tigers and all of that. We could say that, because there was indeed a flash of light that ended all of that. It's kind of what this is talking about. Actually, all of that. But, bottom line, you feel me? No Big Bang. None. The Bible does not support the Big Bang. Yehi or, there should be light, and there was light, came from this object that was already illuminating. It was just dimly illuminated. Then it got hyperactively illuminated because of certain instances. As a matter of fact, if we go to Exodus, I forget the exact verse, but it says, Nikra olenu. It says, Elohim Nikra elenu. Or, excuse me, Elohim Nikra olenu, meaning our deity, the deity Elohim, Elohim, the God, was encountered above us. So what happens when two stars collide? Yehi or. Why yehi or? So that would mean that the sun that this is talking about is something different. But that's gonna come later. That's gonna come later. Not gonna do it today. Not gonna do it today. Oh man. But all in all, that's it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what nobody else gonna tell you. But if you want to properly translate Genesis 1:1, you got to do more than just, you got to do some digging, because each of these words have roots that are derivatives, or they are derivatives of older terms, or just reduplications of older terms. You know what I'm saying? And the most important terms in this one are these three right here. This lets you know that this entity that we're talking about is something that is celestial, obviously, but it's also a luminary, because at first it illuminated and cleared away forces, charges, something that is in charge, a dual canopy, and a landscape. Only thing in our understanding of things that can do that has the power to do that, is a star. Now, if it was this sun or whatever have you. Yeah, that's exactly why the God star cover was in a red circle, because it's a dimly lit substellar mass star. It was a brown dwarf star at first. You know what I'm saying? Brown is just a darker shade of red. You know what I mean? So it being brown would have appeared to us as if it was red. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the red sun, it's infrared, so it'll appear red to us. This one is not necessarily 100% infrared, but it appears yellow because it's so far down in the infrared that it can, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's exactly why this is red on the God Star book. It's an infrared star. All right. If you were to look at the planet Titan or the moon Titan in comparison to Earth, you'll find very, very, very similar things. All right, so just for conversation's sake, before I get out of here, I'll put this on your mind. Number one, the water on the Earth is deuterium oxide. It's not H2O, it's deuterium oxide. It's a heavy hydrogen atom affixed to an oxygen atom. All right. The same heavy hydrogen that is on Earth's water is only found one other place in this solar system. That's in the rings of Saturn and the bodies that are within the rings of Saturn, Enceladus, Titan, so on and so forth. Number two, the salt isotope, the sodium chlorine, the sodium chloride isotope that we have on Earth is equivalent to the salt that is in the rings of Saturn. And guess where else it is? Nowhere else. Number three, Saturn's axial tilt is 27 degrees. Yeah, 27 degrees. Earth's axial tilt is 23. Mars's is 25. The sun is 7-degree tilt. Planet Saturn, the Earth, and Mars could not have come from the sun with the current accretion disk model because the planets would have to be tilted 2 to 3 degrees in error of the object itself. So a 17, 18 degree differential would, at the rate that the sun spins the solar system, it would have sent everything flying. It would have sent everything flying. Unless Jupiter was there to, keep everything in line. But even still, they would eventually go off kilter because their axial tilts, the way that they, so when I say axis, I mean up and down. Every planet is doing like this, you know what I'm saying, but rotating. I can't do both motions at the same time. So if this thing is rotating at like a 7-degree point, but this one is rotating at 23 degrees, and this one is orbiting the 7, this is not going to stay affixed very long. It's going to wobble off somewhere. So, in order for the Earth to have been formed and had received and been given a 23.5-degree tilt, you know what I'm saying, it would have to have come from a body within 2 to 4 degrees of tilt in the same fashion. It would have to have formed from a disk with 2 to 4 degrees of tilt outside of the body. The most likely body is Saturn. The helium content on Earth does not match the helium content on the sun. It matches the helium content of Saturn, though. Okay. What else is there? What else is there? Oh, I talked about the salt. I talked about the water. I talked about the axial tilt. I talked about the helium content. I talked about that's it for now. For now, that's it. So the sun could not possibly be the object here. Couldn't possibly be the object here, the current sun, because number one, you know what I mean. According to y'all understanding, I say y'all, but I don't mean that in a condescending means. It's just the general understanding, you know what I'm saying, that I don't have. So according to y'all understanding, the two lights didn't come into the play until verse 14. You know what I'm saying? But even that's not even talking about the sun and the moon. The sun, as we know it, has no dealing with any of this here. Why? Because we had a previous sun that got knocked out. It got knocked into to deep space orbit, and our previous sun was Saturn. It was a red or brown substellar mass. This is why your god El is equivalent to Cronus. This is why um, Yahweh is equated to El, which is equated to Cronus. You know what I'm saying? All of them go back to Cronus or Saturn because they were Saturn. You know what I'm saying? And that I would suggest reading the book God Star. You know what I'm saying? For those associations and things like that. I would definitely suggest reading that because he can give you all the sources. It's thoroughly researched. I do mean thoroughly researched. Dude got more citations than his page numbers, and it's a 500-page book. So what they tell you, you know what I'm saying. So, but there's other things. There's other things. You know what I'm saying, like Shabbatai. Excuse me. Saturn is known as Shabbatai in biblical in Hebrew, Shabbatai or Shabbaton. You know what I'm saying? The rested one, the seated one, the one that stops. It just doesn't move. Why would it be called that if it's just a pinprick in the sky? We can't tell if it's never moved. Oh, no. Its orbit takes 30 years around the sun. It's just really slow moving. Slow moving is still moving. That's not seated. And the sun ain't never been seated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Gabrielle, or Gabriel, however I don't want to mispronounce. You know what I'm saying? I would start over from the beginning. But I'm gonna be honest with you though. There's a lot that's implicit because I talk about the same stuff on my page a lot, and the people that are watching have been rocking with your boy for years. You know what I'm saying? So they already know when I'm putting something down that they can pick up already. But for you, you'd have to be familiarized with who I am and my work. But for all intents and purposes, you should be able to go back to this video and make the same, you know what I'm saying, deductions. But yeah, so in the grand scheme of things, you know, when we're talking about the formations of the heavens and the earth, we're talking about quite literally cosmology. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about the ordering of the celestial bodies and things of that nature. How did they come to be such? Genesis 1 tells you how, at least from our perspective, how at least three of those bodies came to be. But we could talk about that in time. But for all intents and purposes, nothing happened in the beginning that we could say, but we can say what something did at first to create certain circumstances. And those certain circumstances were the prelude to this thing exploding with light. Because otherwise, how can it dictate that light be unless it's coming from itself? You know what I'm saying? Well, it's good to have you, Gabriel. It's good to have you. We're gonna talk about that Yasharala stuff. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you literate. We gonna get you talking right and spelling right. That's the fun. That's the fun part about it. When people get to see these terms and get to see these words and how the grammar and the syntax works, and then the light current turns on, like, oh damn. So I've been doing it wrong this whole time. You know, that I love that. You know what I'm saying? That's straight illumination. You know what I'm saying? Straight illumination. Yeah, so even if I were to do the Yasharala thing, I'd have to find exactly where it says. I know towards the end of Genesis, I know for sure I could find it just in any random spot, simply because he's talked about so often. Where are you? And I swear I'm gonna leave after this. I swear I am. I'm having fun though, unfortunately, and that's when this can take a while. Marisha knows. Once I get to yapping, Marisha can tell you from personal experience. Once I get to yapping, it's a wrap. Um, but for all intents and purposes, let's do Genesis 33 because that's where he got his name changed. Oh, don't do that. All right, yeah, he got his name changed in Genesis 33. All right, Israel, right? All right, so even with Israel, right? This is an I class vowel. That's an A class vowel. That's I class approximate vowel. You know what I'm saying? Israel. Yisrael. Yisrael. This is a sin. This is not a sheen. I don't know where they get that Yasharala stuff from. That's not a sheen. That's a sin. I don't know where they get Yasharala from because that's an I class vowel. This is it. You see what I'm saying? I don't get where they get Yasharala from because this is a glottal stop. This means there's a slight pause between the pronunciation of Ra and A. You know what I'm saying? So Yisrael. Shalom Aleichem. I'm all right. I'm okay, man. Teach the people for sure, man. For sure, bro. For sure. He says, Shalom Aleichem, Manishma Achi, Lemedet Ha'am Hapashut. Meaning that he's saying, hello, how was your peace? How was your well-being? Then he says, teach the people right judgment. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, Harlem Hebrew. Thank you, Siloa. It's Harlem Hebrew. It's not actual, there's rules for this because if I was to say Yesharallah, there's some confusion there. All right, so for example, the Komed Hey, the portion of Yasharallah, that is indicative of a feminine form. You know what I'm saying? That is a feminine suffix. But Yasharal, the yod with the A class vowel, that is indicative of a hifil. No, never mind. That's a direct object. Not excuse me. That's a definite marker. Let me try to find a hifil in this right here. Yeah, Evar. That's the third masculine imperfect of a hifil. So in saying Yasharala, you're saying the object Sarah, that Sarah El that prevailed with El. Well, you're saying that it has a masculine performative aspect, but a feminine concluding aspect. Yasharala is, I hate to say it like this, but Yasharala is linguistic hermaphroditism. It's a hermaphroditic term. You have a masculine performative prefix and a feminine suffix that's not denoting location. You know what I'm saying? So it's inconsistent. You feel what I'm saying? And this ain't nothing on you, Miss Gabrielle. This is not you personally. This is just a school of thought that produced that you know what I'm saying, that pronunciation for things. You know what I mean? Yasharala is very hermaphroditic in its construction. Male prefixes, feminine suffixes. And I'm not laughing at you, sister. I swear I'm not laughing at you. It's just that we've been battling this for 10 years. And I've been battling this for 10 years. Not to speak on my first instructor, Matzi Lane, not to speak on Shayla Ben Wow, not to speak on Yehochanan Ben Yisrael, not to speak on Pinckney Salisbury and how long they've been at it. You know what I'm saying? Not to speak on Yaakov Ben Yisrael. You know what I mean? My partner out there in South Carolina right now, I think, but he in Germany. He was in Germany. I think he's in South Carolina right now. But these guys have been fighting for decades. Shale, Matilil, and Yaakov especially, they've been fighting for decades. You know what I'm saying? Against that's why I'm laughing. You know, it's not you, sister. You only doing what you know. And the more you know, the better you do. Right, right. So this is me just showing you better. You see what I'm saying? Yisrael is the pronunciation. Yisrael. 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 Not Yasharala. I don't know where they get that from. That is not consistent with what we see throughout the text. It's from Genesis 33 and 20 on down. You know, I have no idea where Ian is. Now that you mention it, I have absolutely no clue where Ian is. That boy fell off the face of the earth. Hopefully he's happy, successful, and sitting fat and happy with a family. You know what I mean? Very, 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 very well wishes to that boy. You know what I mean? I have not heard from Ian in some time. Yes, sir, I know, bro. Shalom Aleichem, Maki. But yeah, man, I know it's that one West stuff, man. But it's that one West, you know. Don't worry about it, Gabriel. You know what I'm saying? Like, just one thing that I would suggest is make another page. Just make another page if it's that deep. Just make another page. You know what I mean? That's best I could tell you if they won't let you change anything out. You know what I'm saying? But so yeah, you know, it's like there's so much that you can glean from the text that would take careful, you know, consideration over it. All right. So for example, right? So let's say Waya Omer Elohim Tadeshe Haaret Eshev Mevria Dera Et Peri Oseperil Mino Asher Darovo Al Haaret. That Gabriel. Okay, Gabriel. My apologies. My apologies. Nah, far be it from me to mess people's name up. Because people get my name wrong all the time. My name's Dwight. I'd have been called DeWiggett. I'd have been called DeWiggity. I'd have been called D White. You know what I'm saying? I'd have been called DeWhitey. You know what I mean? There's not even a damn Y or an E in my name. So how the hell are they getting DeWhitey or DeWiggity? How? I don't have a Y in my name. And the only I is a long I. You know what I mean? There's no E in my name. There's no E sound. So where they get DeWiggity? Where they get DeWhitey? Where do they get that from? Huh? Somebody please explain to me. How does DWIGHT turn into DW EYE TEE? How does that happen? How does that happen? So don't feel bad. Oh, don't mind these. These are alchemical symbols. But but yeah, Matt, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shalom to you again. Like, there's a lot, bro. Like just like I said, just from the very beginning, every Bible that you read is going to say in the beginning. But we got two instances in Genesis 13 that shows where the beginning, it's either temporal, or you feel what I'm saying, or or spatial. But it's not that word. Even the word barashona that uses the exact same, the issue here is missing some features for it to mean, for this to mean the same thing in the beginning. This is missing some features, so we just got to go with what's here. A lot of the problem is there's a lot of things inserted that's not mentioned. Like, for instance, we didn't know until today. Well, I didn't know until yesterday when I was researching that bara had a connotation of shining, glittering, radiating. I had to look in Ethiopic for that. I had to look in the Ge'ez dictionary for that. I had to look in the Akkadian dictionary for that. You know what I'm saying? Because the Halo, which is the premier biblical Hebrew dictionary, did not contain this information. That's the only reason I know that this, and then it becomes common sense for this to be an illuminative factor, because otherwise, how can this thing say there should be light if it cannot produce the light? If it depends on something else to produce the light, then this is an object that is limited in its abilities, and it cannot rightfully say, "Is there anything too hard for me?" Yeah, producing light, apparently, because you got to get the sun to do it. No, no. This thing produced the light of itself, and it itself became the distinguishment between the dark and the light. This object right here. And the only thing that naturally does that in all of the cosmos is a star. Period. Period. You know what I'm saying? So, we're not dealing with a book of an imagination, of an imaginary power here. We worshiped what had the power to destroy us in one fell swoop, because we saw the creation that it caused in seven fell swoops that ended up destroying a lot of stuff in the meanwhile to make the creation. Yeah, Ge'ez is dope, man. Like, when you put Ge'ez right next to Quranic Arabic and right next to biblical Hebrew, they're almost indistinguishable, with the exception of certain features that are unique to each of them. And to be real with you, if we want to talk about how that language split came about, well, we got this story of the Tower of Babel. I talked about that last week. You know what I'm saying? How all these people were the descendants of Niger Congo speakers, and then Afro-Asiatic, if you will, Nilo-Saharan, and Bantu are all the children of the Niger Congo language branches. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't, man. I'm telling you, I could, man. Y'all don't understand. Like, I could literally sit here and just talk and just flip, just talk and flip. But people got time constraints, and I don't even know what I'm talking about no more, because my whole mission was to just talk about these 5 verses before some people came out with a translation of Genesis 1:1 and charging people for it. I just gave you $40,000 of education that you ain't got to go to Tel Aviv, Israel for to translate this one sentence so that you don't have to spend $10, $12, $15 for somebody to tell you some stuff that's not being communicated. As a matter of fact, before Yaakov, you know what I'm saying, and before Mitz, nobody was talking about the controversy between this first verse. Nobody was. Then the students of Mitz and Yaakov started learning how this stuff actually reads. You know what I mean? Because, like, look, let me show y'all something. If that person gets on here reading like this, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashomayim or et ha'arev, you know what I'm saying? Or if they do this, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa et. You know, if they get on here talking about that, or if it sounds like a baby babbling, get your refund. That Negro don't know Hebrew. If he gets on here and it does not flow exactly like this, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa et ha'aretz. And I mean exactly like that. Why? Because there are pauses, major and minor pauses. There's disjunctive, conjunctive, subjunctive pauses. Tells you the tempo. The text tells you the tempo. Again, I'm going to read. And every time I see one of these, I'm going to add some emphasis. Okay. These little markings beside the vowels. If you don't know what the vowels are, real briefly, this is a vowel. That's a vowel. This dot is a vowel. These two T's are a vowel. These dots are a vowel. That dot is a vowel. Those two dots are a vowel. These lines and these T is a vowel. This dot is a vowel. These dots are all vowels. These T's are vowels and these dots are vowels. So which leaves us to this curved line, this 90-degree angle, this wishbone looking thing, this curved line, this other curved line, this other curved line, and this straight line. All right. So reading with the accent is called an accent for a reason. It shows the rules of syllabication. So, all right, so we're going to go into syllabication real quick, okay? All right, so very, very briefly, this is an inseparable preposition. This is a syllable in itself. This is closed by the vocal schwa, b, okay? Then we have resh. We have consonant, vowel, consonant, all right? Then we have consonant, vowel, consonant. This cannot take a vocal or silent schwa. You know what I'm saying? So what should be here is something like a siluk. You know what I'm saying? What should be here to keep this as an open syllable, but it's missing. So just even in the beginning, we have a misspelling. You wouldn't know that unless you know the grammar. All right. So bereshit, you know what I'm saying? The accent is here. So we put the accent on sheet. Bereshit. All right. Here's the accent. Bara. Here's the accent. Elohim. 8 accent. Hashomayim accent. Wa8 accent. Ha'aret accent. You feel what I'm saying? So this book, the genius of this book is that it teaches you not only how to read, not only how to render grammatically, this, that, and it teaches you exactly how to pronounce these things. Don't let nobody tell you that nobody knows how to pronounce these words in biblical Hebrew correctly, because it literally spells it out for you. It tells you where to put the accentuation. It tells you that closed syllables like long vowels, open syllables like short vowels. You know what I'm saying? Right here. You know what I'm saying? Same, you got both situations right here. And it even tells you which one to place the stress on whenever you have the situation where you have an open syllable, you know what I'm saying, and a closed syllable together. Hoshek, right? Well, hoshek. Open syllable. Closed syllable. Short vowel, closed syllable. Doesn't get the accent. Okay? Long vowel, closed syllable. Accent. Long vowel, closed syllable. Secondary accent. No accent. You know, it teaches you how to read it. It teaches you exactly how to say what you need to say. I can go to any random page here. All right. I don't even know what this is. Yehoshua 14. Okay, let's read. Just a matter of fact, let's go to Aramaic. I don't even know Aramaic. Where's Daniel at? I don't even know Aramaic. But I'm gonna just to show you a language that I'm not even that familiar with, as familiar as I am with biblical Hebrew. Let's go to biblical Aramaic, and we're gonna sight read. Right? Mind you, I don't know how to read this. 100% honest. I don't have the vocabulary, I should say, to know exactly all the words that are being said. Right? But oh no, I think these are Hebrew portions. I gotta actually go to Daniel for the Aramaic. Esther got some Aramaic in it, but I'd rather do Daniel. Kohelet Give me 1 second. I'm getting that done yet. There it goes. From the second chapter, I believe, is Aramaic. Uh, yeah, here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna sight read. Like I say, I do not know Aramaic. I'm not familiar with Aramaic like that. But just to show you that I can read this just fine and sound like I know what I'm talking about, just based on the rules of biblical Hebrew. ودي هدايتا رجليا وإدباتا منهون هسف دي بحد ومهون برديل ملقو بالجيجا دي خوي ومن ندبتا دي بردلا لهوي excuse me, كل قبل دي هدايتا بردلا ما أرى بحسافتنا. I don't know what the hell that just said. I've got no clue because I don't have. Show you the cover. You talking about the cover of the Tanakh? This is the library edition from Corn Publishing. I don't even have a spine on this thing no more. I just go to show. You know what I'm saying? And then my poll Society for the Distribution of Hebrew Scriptures, ain't faring too well either. This this thing has been through some stuff. But I just demonstrated how just understanding a situation and syllabication, I'm able to read a completely different biblical language that I really don't understand. I don't have the vocabulary to tell you exactly what this stuff means. You know what I'm saying? But I can tell you that it's not biblical Hebrew because the definite article is at the end of the damn word instead of the beginning. Paradela, parazela, you know what I'm saying? And then you have this here. Lehewe. Now, I could, but I'm not. We could talk about this and the pronunciation of the tetragrammaton, but I ain't gonna do it today. Well, that's another time. But yeah, man, it's just the book tells you how to read it. There's no reason for sounding like a 3-year-old. There's no reason for sounding like a, you know what I'm saying, like you just opened up your first Dr. Seuss book and you got to sound. No, there's no reason for that because even if you read it slow, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashomayim wa et haaretz. If you go along with the accents, you have a proper reading. So if that person comes up here talking about they're gonna translate Genesis 1-on-1 and they sound like a newborn baby, and their reading doesn't match the accents and the proper syllabication, right? If they get on here, Bereshit, oh no, look, if they get on here talking about some Abimelech, you know what I'm saying? If they get on there talking about some Abimelech, you know what I mean? Abimelech, they don't know what they're talking about. It's Abimelech. But anyway, I gotta go. It was a pleasure. Hopefully I'm able to do this again next week. You know what I'm saying? And I might come back later on today if I ain't got nothing else to do. But I'm pretty sure I ain't gonna have nothing else to do. So I might come back later on today. But shalom. Shalom alaikum. Obada. Excuse me. Dang it. Odabo. I almost messed up. Odabo. You know what I mean? All of that. And, be good. I'll be back.